Everyone. Today is Sunday, family day, and it's early morning. I want to capture this video to talk about a guy named Josh Fergustein. It looks like he's a viral evangelist out of Arizona. His birthday is January 7th, 1981. He is a Capricorn, so I know that spirit. When you Google his name and you watch this video he just posted about Black Lives Matter and people growing up not respecting the police, he shows his gun, which obviously he's able to carry in Arizona legally, and he talks about being ready to shoot. He's going to side with the police any event that he see any Black Lives Matter people disrespecting the police or about to do something to the police. Was real troubling, and it really vexed my spirit. That's why I had to do this video, so I can later send it and tweet it to him directly. It's Josh, you're young, relatively young. 1981, being born, I was born in 75, so I got 6 years on you. But I have over 20 years of experience working door-to-door, block-to-block with black people. I'm a 14-year Navy vet, had a chance to travel the world with the Navy, and I've had some of my best experiences with white people. Some of my buddies are white people. So I'm definitely not someone that don't value human life and what all races bring to society. What I want to tell you, young man, is for you to believe that Black Lives Matter movement doesn't matter tells me two things, and I always try and give people the benefit of the doubt. Either it's ignorance or it's intentional. Now, if it's ignorance, Josh, then hopefully this video will give you some insight. If it's intent, it's real unfortunate because you're relatively young, and for you to feel like this Black Lives Matter don't matter, that's part of our problem in America. Let me give you some history. This country was built on the collision of three groups of people: Indians, Europeans, and Africans. All right? This is the greatest country in the world, I believe. And I've traveled around the world, so when I speak it, I'm not just saying it from an emotional standpoint. I think we are a melting pot in the world. The problem with diversity without inclusion is you have a mix of people, black, white, Mexican, all of that. But inclusion means when you talk about who's in charge, does everyone have a seat at the table? And we don't have that. So let me go back to the history. The collision between the Europeans, the Africans, and the Indians, two groups lost, Josh. Two groups lost. The Indians lost and the Africans lost. The Europeans won. So when we talk about this great nation, two groups are in bad shape. Now, one group is in horrible shape. The Indians have billions of dollars every year. They have a reservation. Now, I'm not a fan of just tucking away the people you slaughtered and put into reservations and then saying, here, we're going to create the Bureau of Indian Affairs and give you money every year. I'm not a fan of that, but at least they got something. My ancestors and people who died fighting to be acknowledged got nothing. Africans still haven't been said I'm sorry to. You violated the collision, two groups lost, and blacks still haven't been apologized to. The Indians have billions of dollars every year, and they have space, reservations, which is bad too, but it's better than your ancestors being raped, strapped to trees, burned, killed, and the European model still haven't said I'm sorry. All right, so understand where the anger, understand where the pain comes from, Josh. I don't know if your family immigrated here, how you got here, but I'm telling you, the collision, the Africans lost more than anyone else because we still haven't even been spoken I'm sorry. So I just want you to know that. 1793 is when the first police force law was passed, and it was the fugitive law. If you catch an African free, you make sure you turn them in. Now, that's one of the first charges of the military, of the police. Capture these blacks and get them back to the plantation they belong. So 37 states wasn't even enacted yet. This was in the first 13 states, after the 13 colonies. So Josh, the history of the police department is bad, when it comes to Africans and African Americans, because the first order, the first push was to go get them blacks. So when you praising the police, and the police, firefighters, and military raise their right hand and they swear to die for others. The police force, military, is all voluntary. No one is forced to be a police. No one is forced to be a firefighter or military unless you was the draft, and that hasn't happened in a long time. So the police are voluntary. They're choosing. Now, why you choose to go there is a whole nother reason. It goes back to what I spoke about intent and ignorance. Some police officers are going so they can control. All right? If you believe, Josh, that all police officers are perfect, I feel sorry for you. Each human being has flaws. I have flaws. You have flaws. If you think they're all perfect, you're more narrow viewed than I thought. All right? So I hope you don't think that. And now, if you agree that they're not all perfect, if you're not open for the understanding that each police officer carries something, what you just showed, your gun, that can take the life of someone else. Someone who has a network of people who love them, a network of people who care about them, and more importantly, a network of people who need them. So if you're excusing police officers who are not perfect, you blankly said police. You didn't mention that they are flawed human beings who make mistakes. You're going to shoot and protect those heroes, you said. Now, I'm in the military. I know military people who rape young girls in Thailand, all right? Who, when we was on liberty, did bad things. But if we blankly say all military are heroes just because of who you serve, heroes do bad stuff, bruh. I'm telling you firsthand, all right? Every time our ship left a country, we had court-martial for people who did bad things. But in the American eye, they heroes. Heroes are not perfect either, brother. So let me go back to the police. If you're blankly protecting them, they are bad officers, all right? But if they take the life of someone, even if they shoot someone and paralyze them and they can't make a living for their children, where are you in terms of holding them accountable? Everyone, no one should be above justice. But what I want you to know is when you talk about Black Lives Matter, and I'm not a part of Black Lives Matter, but I'm a black person, my life do matter. So it's more of symbolism, and it's people expressing themselves. It's not one coordinated group. Name me the Black Lives Matter president. You can't, because it's not. It's an acknowledgement that this country was built on racism. It was built on Europeans taking over the Africans and the Indians. That's what this nation was built on. And if we won't even acknowledge that, and acknowledge that we've done some things to take care of the Indians in this nation, but not the Africans, we wonder why all these urban ghettos exist. The ghettos exist because some of the Europeans, not all, because again, I got strong European relationships, so I don't drink the Kool-Aid of all, but some, and the ruling elite who's in power, decided, I'm going to not live around these people, put these people over there, and then use our police force to keep them away from us. Whether you believe that or not, so be it. But I doubt if you see millionaires living amongst urban ghettos. So, having said that, Josh, I want to go back to, center this back to the police. 1793, first rule was go get them blacks that are fugitives. You're a fugitive because it was slavery, and you get them back to their owners. Now, 53 years later, in 1850, the slave law was furthered to include whites now. It was the reinforcement of the original slave law, which said, and this is all for the police, if whites are helping blacks escape, you lock them up too. So you had 1793, the first law, which was lock up them blacks. Then it was strengthened in 1850 because the Underground Railroad was getting blacks up north to be free. So, of course, the ruling evil, we're going to talk about that. You call them heroes, some of these politicians. It was evil that they thought another group of people was not human. All right. So those evil people sat up there and said, now, you white people who are going to hurt our system of slavery and free labor, we're going to lock you up too. So 1850, that law passed, the fugitive law, the reinforcement one, that they told the police, you lock whites up too. It's not just going to be about the blacks, it's going to be about whites too. So now, and at that time, Missouri had just come on to the Union, Missouri. And when Missouri came into the Union as well, they was a slave state, Missouri. And so back then, one slave state, one free state, Josh. How do you think blacks was feeling with the police? Do you think blacks had a good relationship with the police? Hey, Officer Friendly, you coming to make sure I'm still on the plantation? So if you have empathy in your heart, and you're an evangelist from what I read, I don't know what God you're serving, but if you got God in your heart, and you see the police from the inception was against black people, and you fast forward all these years now, and you still see police officers, some who, no one said, I'm sorry. So get that straight. Imagine someone doing something to your family, if you have children, raping them, shooting and killing them, and then they just say, look, that was the past. Don't worry about that. We moving forward now. We just moving forward. That was back then. Josh, I'm sure you will want justice. You will want retribution. You will want them to be held accountable. You're not just going to let them get away with raping your daughter, then letting time pass, and you just say, it's cool, man. That's back then. We trying to be better now. That's the problem America has right now, is we haven't even acknowledged officially, and we haven't repaired any of the damage that's been done. We just want these people to move on. Well, let me tell you something about God. And I don't know what God you serve, you evangelists here. But God never gives you more than you can bear. And for the Africans here in America and in Africa have bared a lot of brutality at the hands of evil people, evil spirits who thought they were right, evil people who thought that they can dominate. And I'm going to tell you from my history, my background, and studying psychology, that means the people who think that they're stronger than they are, it's insecurity. So what you're really dealing with is people who was very insecure in themselves, that they felt the need to demean someone else. That's the whole thing with bullying. If you feel the need to put someone else down, it's something missing in you. So when I look at the whole system that's still going now, it's a lot of insecure people in leadership, a lot of insecure spirits. When I look at the police right now that's shooting these unarmed citizens when they see black, and this way you got to look at Fox News and the portrayal of black men in America, and knowing that you never said sorry. So if I did something or someone did something to your loved one, you got to kind of always, they go have to always be mindful that you may come for revenge, that you may want to seek retribution since you didn't get it in the system. So I believe in America, because certain people are in power and they know the wrongs of their ancestors, they're fearful. They're afraid at any moment these people might want retribution. Since they're not getting it, they may lash out. And the sad thing is, some black people who are at their wits' end, which any human being, you keep doing people wrong, at some point they go snap. And no one can say who's on the verge of snapping. And I know you got your gun there, you ready to pay back, but Josh, you're gonna die too. All right. There's 86,400 seconds every day. We don't know when our seconds are up, when we're going to pass on. So I'm going to die, you're going to die. The sad part is, if from what I'm detecting from the video you posted, you're living a limited life. Even though you're a viral evangelist and you probably get kicks out of people watching your videos and all of that, any human being can add value to your life. If you are who it looks like you are, someone that don't see the benefit of Africans or black people, then you're limiting yourself. There are some good black people. And obviously, if you do have black friends, they haven't educated you how to look at it from a different perspective. So that's unfortunate for you. But you're going to go just like everyone else. So whether you go out in a blaze of glory with your lead 60 bullets, as you said, what I'm more disheartened about is that as someone born in the 1980s, that you don't get it, that these black people protesting have a valid gripe, and that America still hasn't said I'm sorry for building this great nation. And so I'm gonna pray for you. I'm gonna ask that hopefully somebody speak to you so that you can just have some empathy for other people. And when you see these people protesting, and I always tell people, look at 3 brackets. You got the extremists, you got the moderates, and then you got the people who are just hopeless or just not involved, not engaged. So when you hear people saying death to pigs and you see people saying kill police, they don't represent the whole group, man. Don't say all Black Lives Matter. Those are extremists. Those are people who are probably at their wits' end and who's on the verge of snapping. And if you want us to check them internally, I believe we are checking them, saying, hey man, don't be in this movement with us. Don't be doing that, because you're contaminating the whole message. But those people who are quick, and it seems like that's what you did, who are quick to say, see, yep, that's all of them, you got to look in the mirror, bro. You have to look in the mirror and say, why am I painting a broad paintbrush with all of these people when the whole point of it is a response? Black Lives Matter, them marching saying Black Lives do matter, is a response. We weren't just sitting around saying, all right, we don't have nothing to do, let's just go and say Black Lives Matter. It's because we've seen Trayvon Martin. We've seen George Zimmerman kill his brother and get away with it. We've seen situations in Michael Brown. We've seen situations where people, got choked to death, and they say, oh well. When you do that, just know that there's a cumulative impact. Every incident that happens lodges in our psyche, and it pushes us a certain way, whether it's to the extreme way or whether it's to getting people feeling hopeless, like whatever. But just know that we all here, we all in this country. The fact of the matter is, transparency and social media is leveling the playing field. There are some police unions in this nation that hate the fact that we have these cell phones and we can communicate around the world. Because what you used to get away with would now be documented and exposed. And that's to the favor of justice, not to black people, but to get justice, because the police are very quick, not all. But what I will say about all police, I'll come to that in a minute. What they're quick to say is in a police report, they felt threatened. Well, yeah, you go feel threatened. If you know your ancestors did wrong by these people, you never acknowledge and say nothing wrong, you're going to be threatened. Every time you look around, you're going to be threatened. So if that's your justification, black men in trouble. But let me go back to the police unions and the police officers. A lot of this last 10 years of this police stuff could have been addressed if the police held themselves accountable. We talk about the code of silence in the black community. They not talking. The biggest code of silence is the blue wall, the police code of silence. I've yet to see police come out and say this was wrong what my fellow officer has done. If you won't police yourself, and we, even if you did police yourself, we still need to have independent outside checks and balances. So that's the way we had a nation structured. So even if you did police yourself, we still need an independent set of eyes to make sure you're doing it. But when police won't call themselves out, to all the black officers, and I can imagine, I don't know, all over this nation, I can imagine what it's like to work in an atmosphere where you're in the minority, and the jokes and the commentary is that Black lives don't matter. I can imagine what you're going through. But what I would say to you is, you can live your 86,400 seconds marginalized, or you can take a stand. And it's not for me to say who can afford to quit their job, but what I would say is your ancestors died because they weren't going to tolerate the white supremacy that was happening to them. So you have to be the judge. What type of life am I going to live? Am I going to tolerate this police chief and his fellow officers that I know that hate the people that they supposed to protect? Am I going to tolerate that, or am I going to form my own union? My thoughts is this, is that we need to make sure the police code of silence is called out, and we need a group of police officers that will do just that. So just like the NRA, I think the liberals should create their own NRA that'll be a more liberal NRA, not with the extreme where they don't want no licensing, they don't want no restrictions of any of their things. I think we should create an NRA that's more with measured stipulations. We should do the same thing with the unions. If the police union, if you're a black officer, is protecting police that shot and took someone's life, how can you tolerate that? Let's create a black or minority police union that will fight for and make sure that your voice is heard, because I don't see it. And that's a big reason why we have a lot of black people who don't trust the police, because they don't see some of the police that's saying when they fellow officers are wrong, when they shouldn't have done what they've done. And so we got to get to that point where we're not having our allegiance to parties and that type of stuff. Your allegiance should be to God. You're an evangelist to God. And you know, you're going to have to face judgment just like all the rest of us. And I hope it's done not out of ignorance, but intent, that you intentionally want to serve God. You intentionally want to do right by people, no matter what their skin color is. I think that covers everything. Oh yeah, you said start carrying guns. Yeah, that's fine. If that's the goal, start carrying guns. Let's blacks can carry guns too. We can just have a Wild Wild West environment where everyone carrying guns and quick to pull it out and shoot. At the end of the day, we all go die. So from that standpoint, I'm not worried about death. I know it's coming, so I live every second to the fullest. So when I do transition, I can at least feel like I've done my part. So I'm not fearful of that. I think it's unfortunate. I think it's misguided. I think it's narrow-minded. But if carrying a gun make you feel whole, you got to look in the mirror and say, okay, why do I need an external tool to feel safe and secure? You're going to die. Your time is coming. So you're not going to stop that. If you do, you just delayed it. Ultimately, death is coming in the physical sense. So I'm not fearful. It seems like you are. You packing, you ready to go, and that's fine. Whatever, float your boat. To each his own. I just hope, honestly, Josh, that you gain a new sense of maturity to not look at it so narrow-minded, such a narrow view that black lives don't matter. Black lives matter. Blue lives matter. All people matter. But if your left and right foot is hurting, if your left foot is hurting, you're not going to say both feet are important. You're going to do something to treat the left foot that's hurting. You need both feet. The human race, black and white, we need both. God created you just like he created me. I just hope that you broaden your perspective so you're not being narrow-minded. That's all I got. I'm going to pray for you, brother. Thanks.